Hey there. So picture this. It's a bitterly cold night in the Ural Mountains of Siberia. The wind is howling. The temperature is plunging to something like minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And 9 experienced hikers are fast asleep in their tent, nestled into the snowy slope of a place the local indigenous people call Koletsyakal, the Mountain of the Dead. They have no idea that in a few hours, they will flee their tent in sheer panic, tearing through the canvas from the inside, and run, barefoot and half-dressed, into the darkness. They have no idea that not a single one of them will survive the night. And they certainly have no idea that their final, desperate moments would become one of the world's most enduring and chilling mysteries. Welcome, I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unexplained Archive, a production of Light Knot Studios. Today, we're diving into Episode 1, the Dyatlov Pass Incident, New Evidence in a Frozen Mystery. For over 60 years, the Dyatlov Pass incident has been the ultimate cold case. It's a puzzle box of horrors that has spawned theories ranging from the plausible, like an avalanche, to the utterly fantastical, Soviet weapons tests, Yeti attacks, even alien encounters. The basic facts are grim and bizarre. In January of 1959, a group of 10 students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov, set out on a skiing expedition. One turned back early, leaving 9. In early February, after they failed to send a telegram, a search party was launched. What they found has haunted investigators ever since. The tent was discovered on the mountainside, partially collapsed and cut open from the inside. The hikers' belongings, including their warm boots and coats, were left behind. Footprints led away from the tent, down the slope toward a dense forest. About a mile away, under a large cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies. They were barefoot, dressed only in their underwear. A small fire had been built. Then, they found 3 more bodies between the tree and the tent, including that of Igor Dyatlov. These 5 appeared to have died from hypothermia, but the story was far from over. It took over 2 more months for the spring thaw to reveal the final 4 hikers, buried under 12 feet of snow in a ravine. These 4 had sustained massive, fatal internal injuries. One had a fractured skull. Another, a woman, was missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lips. Crucially, their bodies showed no signs of external trauma, no cuts or bruises that would match a fight or an animal attack. It was as if they'd been subjected to a tremendous, crushing force. And adding one more layer of strangeness, some of the clothing recovered from the hikers showed elevated levels of radioactivity. The official Soviet investigation, hastily closed, concluded the group had met a compelling natural force. That's it. Case closed. But that vague conclusion only poured fuel on the fire of speculation. For decades, the mystery seemed frozen in time, just like the victims. The evidence was bizarre, contradictory, and seemingly supernatural. Why would they cut their way out of their shelter? What could scare experienced mountaineers so badly that they'd run into certain death from exposure? And what on earth could cause the kind of internal trauma seen in the last 4, without breaking the skin? Now, as an engineer, I'm trained to look for the simplest explanation that fits all the data. But for a long time, nothing simple fit. Avalanche was the frontrunner, but it never quite added up. The slope wasn't steep enough. No avalanche debris was found. And an avalanche doesn't explain why they left the tent separately over time, or the strange injuries. The lack of external wounds pointed to some kind of shock wave or pressure wave. This led to theories about infrasound from the wind causing panic, or even a secret military test. The radioactivity hinted at some involvement with Soviet technology, but it was all conjecture. Then, in 2021, something remarkable happened. A major scientific study was published using modern computer modeling and soil mechanics, the kind of analysis that simply wasn't possible in 1959. And it presented a startlingly simple and terrifying new theory. The researchers proposed that the group was, in fact, the victim of a very specific and rare type of avalanche, a slab avalanche. Here's the new thinking. The hikers had dug a platform into the slope to pitch their tent. They'd cut into a layer of snow that had been deposited weeks earlier. Then, after they went to sleep, more snow fell on top. The combination created a perfect, fragile slab. Later that night, powerful katabatic winds, those dense, cold winds that rushed down mountain slopes, loaded more snow onto this slab. The researchers' models showed that a small, localized slab slide was not only possible, but likely. It wouldn't have been a Hollywood-style wall of snow. It would have been a dense, heavy block, sliding down and striking the tent with the force of a car. This, the study argues, explains everything. The panic? A sudden, crushing blow to the tent in the dead of night. The decision to cut their way out? The entrance was buried under the slab. The lack of shoes and coats? They were buried or pinned in the collapsed tent. They fled to the tree-line for shelter. The hypothermia deaths of the first 5 are straightforward. But what about the traumatic injuries to the last 4? This is where the new evidence gets chillingly precise. The researchers proposed that after the initial group fled, the 4 strongest hikers might have gone back later to try and retrieve gear from the tent. While they were near the ravine, a second slide occurred. This one wasn't a slab of snow, but a block of hard, dense, wind-packed snow that had formed over weeks. Think of it not as fluffy powder, but as a block of icy concrete tumbling down into the ravine. If you were buried under that, it would cause massive blunt force trauma, crushing internal injuries without breaking the skin. Exactly what the autopsies found. As for the missing tongue and eyes, the leading forensic explanation is simple, if grim: scavenging by small animals after death, a common occurrence in such exposures. It's a compelling argument. It uses physics to explain the fear, the flight, and the forensics. It turns a supernatural mystery into a tragic and horrifyingly plausible natural disaster. For someone like me, who looks for the logic in the chaos, it feels like a key turning in a very old lock. But I have to pause here, because even with this elegant scientific explanation, a part of me wonders. I think about what it must have been like in that tent, in that moment of sheer, unthinkable terror. The sound, the force, the darkness, the cold rushing in. The instinct to survive overriding every ounce of their training. I grew up in Bangladesh, a land of water and heat, a world away from the Siberian winter. But my father used to take me trekking in the hills of Sylhet, and I remember the profound, humbling silence of the wilderness. It's a silence that reminds you how small you are. The Dyatlov group weren't just small against nature. They were utterly overwhelmed by a perfect storm of geological and meteorological bad luck. Their story is a reminder that nature isn't always grand and beautiful. Sometimes it's just perfectly, impersonally cruel. So, does this new research solve the Dyatlov Pass mystery? I think it provides the most complete and scientifically rigorous answer we've ever had. It replaces aliens and yetis with wind patterns and snow mechanics. It turns a compelling natural force from a bureaucratic euphemism into a specific, modeled event. The case may never be officially closed to everyone's satisfaction. Mysteries this powerful have a life of their own. But for the first time, we have a narrative that respects the victims as skilled outdoorsmen who were tragically in the wrong place at the exact wrong moment, not as characters in a paranormal thriller. Their story endures not because of the supernatural, but because of the very human fear it taps into. The fear of the dark, the cold, and the unknown sound in the night. It's the fear that the very ground you've chosen for shelter might turn against you. Thanks for listening to this exploration of a frozen mystery. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. If you want to dive deeper into the research, we'll have links in the show notes. If this story captivated you, please share this episode with someone who loves a good mystery. And for more investigative documentaries like this, make sure you're following the Unexplained Archive from Light Not Studios. You can find us and all our work at lightnotstudios.com. Until next time, stay curious.